If you want to listen to anybody speak on coding and billing, Chris Anderson's the type of person that has the right energy to keep you engaged on this topic. But we certainly want to welcome those of you that are here in our room this morning. Again, the forms are in the back. For the doctors that are here that need continuing education, fill out the orange forms, please. And then leave the orange forms here for me, and then I'll take them to the continuing education office. Everybody here, please fill out the white forms as well. Help yourself to the coffee and fruit and back. So I welcome you, certainly welcome our new members here on Facebook that are streaming us live for the first time ever. We've got well over 400 friends on Facebook right now for this particular Third Thursday group, and we certainly welcome you. Just another quick announcement, next month, January, our topic will be the hand. And Dr. Jeff Rich, a radiologist, fantastic radiologist here at Northwestern Health Sciences, is going to be presenting on athletic injuries to the wrist and hand. So we welcome you again, and looking forward to hearing what Dr. Anderson has to say for us.
Thanks, Dr. Stark. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Anderson. I have the opportunity and the privilege of practicing in the wonderful little town of Reedsburg, Wisconsin, which is part of the tourist trap of the Wisconsin Dells area. I am our clinic director, so technically I do practice. I love what I get to do, love helping patients. We do have 3 clinic locations, and if you guys are looking for notes, I will be putting together some extra handouts. Please email me at drchris@andersonclinics.com. Again, drchris@andersonclinics.com, or you can always go to my website, which is askdranderson.com. So I have the honor and privilege of getting to speak for lots of different fun people all around the country. Most commonly, I work with the Wisconsin Chiropractic Association. I help with their help desk. I also am one of the authors of the wonderful, the fantastic, the wonderful Chirocode Desk book. I'm one of the contributors and reviewers of that book, as well as I work for Find a Code, and I get to speak for many clinics all over the U.S., and I'm very honored to be here today. Big thank you goes out to my mentors, Mario Fuccineri, who practices with NCMEC, and then Evan Gwilliam. Evan is the Vice President of the Chirocode Institute, a really good buddy of mine. We work together on a lot of projects, so I always like to thank them. Without them, I would not be here. I've been in practice for about 6 years, so I know it seems like, oh, some of you who are students out there, it seems like, oh my goodness, it's only 6 years. But let me tell you, it's gone by really, really, really fast. How I got into this whole mess is that I'm a second-generation chiropractor. My father walked into my father's practice, and it was not being run right, he was not billing correctly, so then I tried to find out who the experts in the field were, and luckily Dr. Mario Fuccineri adopted me as well as Evan, and I became friends, and I started working for them. So the information contained in today's presentation is for educational purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. I assume the data contained or not contained in today's presentation. I don't assume any responsibility for the consequences thereof, and any interpretation of the views are concerned or not concerned in this seminar. So, the views and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely those of myself. I do not set practice standards. I only offer this to educate to help you guys out. So, first and foremost, code what you know, not what you expect. Again, does that phrase kind of make sense? Code what you know, not what you suspect is going on. So under the general coding guidelines, and there are a lot of general coding guidelines, they say do not code diagnose as probable, suspected, questionable, ruled out, or working diagnosis, or other similar terms of uncertainty. Your documentation is what you guys throw together. It's what you guys are able to go put on the paper and provide clear evidence of care with other providers. It acts as a legal record of recording the care given, and it supports the billing for services rendered. Is your documentation a weakness that can be exploited by those who don't want to pay you? Guess what? Or is it a shield to protect you from liability and audits? Hopefully, if you're like me, it can be a shield! Okay, any Marvel fans out there? Thank you, appreciate it. I'm a dork, it's okay. Captain America, I look just like him, I know I'm like his twin, but hopefully, it's like a shield. You guys, your documentation, think of it as your weapon. If you go ahead and you weapon through, and if you have good documentation, it's that shield that's going to protect you from everybody else. I'll be honest, I love getting audited. Because guess what? I don't get audited anymore. Once they audit you once and they know that you're good, they're not going to waste their time with you anymore. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So denials. Payers often believe that services rendered are unnecessary because there's too many visits, or there are too many of the wrong services at each visit, or the documentation doesn't match the documentation. Again, billing does not match the documentation. Your subjective builds on your objective, which builds on your assessment, which builds on your plan. Sorry, it's just one of those fun things you have to jump. It's really fun in the morning at 7 o'clock. So again, how many times when we're reviewing notes, does a patient, you adjust a need, but nothing's in their subjective? There's no objective findings. It's not listed in the assessment, but you do it in the plan. I audit notes all the time, guys. It happens all the time. Make sure, again, if you adjust an extremity, if you adjust whatever's going on, please make sure that it's in each part of your note. There has to be a continuation or follow-through. As an auditor, I go ahead and I jump to the plan right away, and then I go to the subjective. If there's like an extremity or a cervical or something going on in the plan, but it's not listed in the subjective, I automatically deny the note. Also, billing for therapies without medical necessity. You have to have in your notes, why are you doing ultrasound? Why do they need rehab? Why do they need, what is going on? And it's so important, and you guys, we have, as a profession, stake at documentation. So what we need to do is we need to get better, and today I will give you the tools needed in order to get better. So good documentation can provide that visits are medically necessary, the services are needed to help patients get better, and the billing actually reflects what you're kind of trying to do. So medical necessity is services or items reasonable and necessary for the diagnosis and treatment of illness or injury to improve the function of a malformed body member. And everyone's like, function? It's all about the function, guys. It's all about activities of daily living. And there's some that are listed up there. It's what is your patient, what they can't do, and what by your actions, by your treatment plan, what are they able to do? And we'll talk about more of that here in the future. So again, a quick check. This is really, really important. And this is the quick check that we have at actually all of our doctor stations through our clinic system. It's a quick check. So you have to ask yourself, does the patient have a complaint in the area being treated? Are there objective findings to explain the cause of complaint? Does the record show a clear plan to correct the problem? And does the record show a progress with measurable goals? Again, functional goals. Does anyone know how you prove functionality with functional goals? Quality assessment measures, also known as OATs, and we will talk about that. So again, here's your recipe book. So again, in your documentation, you need to have your complaint, your explanation, your plan, and your progress. And if you can, as an auditor, please include your mechanism of trauma, because it helps us to identify what's going on. Because if someone just has insidious low back pain, the amount of visits you're going to be approved, especially on your documentation, might be fewer if you said yes, they fell down 3 flights of stairs. And they also have lots of edema going on, and you're very descriptive in your objective. It's going to give you more, again, think of armor, that shield that is going to protect you from that auditor. So, Medicare documentation requirements. And let me just say this, Medicare is like Big Brother, okay? I'm a big brother, and everything I did, my little brother wanted to do too. So keep in mind, whenever Medicare does something, again, everyone else kind of follows suit. So that's where we follow Medicare guidelines, and if you follow Medicare guidelines and document Medicare standards, you'll never have a problem. But I'll be honest, it's really hard in order to do that. So this is just something you're working on. You're doing a good faith effort. So Medicare documentation requirements must have a documentation that fully supports the medical necessity for the manipulation. Does anyone know how you do that? Come on, students, I know it's in the morning, but use part. Okay? In order to, and we'll talk about that. Again, pain, assessment, range of motion, and tenderness. In order to prove that a somatic and segmental dysfunction, also known as a subluxation for some of those other docs out there, is present. The documentation includes, but is not limited to, medical information, physical examination, and the results of other diagnostic tests or procedures. So as an auditor, these are my favorite targets because it's really, really easy to deny you if you don't follow suit. So some of my favorites, missing dates, missing reassessments, leaving blanks in your notes, are we using within normal limits? Well, what are the within normal limits? What are those within normal limits that you're using? Missing care plans, cloning records, okay? That clone button is really easy when you're seeing 60 patients a day, and let me tell you, I saw 60 patients yesterday, which was fun. And yes, I'm like this to every single patient, and we start at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're done at 6 o'clock at night, and let me tell you, the 6 o'clock patient sometimes goes, Dr. Henderson, whatever you're on, I want some. And that was mentioned when I first walked in the room this morning. Cloned records. With your cloned records, it's really easy to do, but guys, as an auditor, there's software. I don't even have to do anything. When you submit your notes, it automatically goes through a scrubber, and it automatically tells me your notes are cloned. So please be careful in that regard. Bad records are the most common cause of state board action, the most common reason of a claim denial, the most common source of administrative heartburn, and the largest source of miscommunication between payers and doctors. And guys, as sports doctors, as sports chiropractors, we need to make sure that we understand really what's going on and how we can truly help our patients. And the best way you can help your patients is getting them better, but also document. Okay, I know it's a pain, but we'll go through it. Records should not take all your time. The patient is why you're actually there. Records should be smooth enough that they get it done, but quickly. We want to sit, and if we want to sit at the same time at the table and continue to be part of the program and be paid like the other doctors, yes, we aren't paid as fairly as the other doctors yet, but it's a work in progress. We need to hold up to our end of the bargain. Their documentation, they have a lot of people that support them, such as documentation coders and billers and their nursing staff is. So we need to go ahead and we can make sure that we're at the same level so we can fight a good fight. So let's talk about it. Patient comes in, and this is from Dr. Conway. Does everyone love Dr. Conway? I do. He's a Wisconsinite. Woohoo! He'll actually be up here at homecoming, so therefore, anyone who's interested in homecoming, please register now. It's up in February for Northwestern. You're welcome, Dr. Stark, for that plug. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and this is from Dr. Conway's information. So you're going to go ahead and start with your initial visit, okay? You're going to get subsequent visits, and what they recommend is every 12 to 15 visits or every 30 days, you're going to do that reevaluation. And I know there are some insurance companies out there that are going to maximize about 10 visits. Well, if your documentation actually is able to show and prove why you need continuation of care. Because guys, ladies and gentlemen, when we audit, the reason why a lot of people, a lot of insurance companies are going to that 10-visit rule is most likely is because we stink at documentation. Okay? Most of the time when we review the notes, it's not medically necessary to continue with care. So prove to them, show them you want to fight and get that shield out. So that when you do that reevaluation after 12 to 15 visits or 30 days, you're actually able to continue with care. But ladies and gentlemen, there's lots of people out there that this cycle never ends. It's like reevaluation and then continuation, and reevaluation and continuation. There has to be an endpoint. There has to be an endpoint. The patient has to reach medical, there has to be medical necessity. It has to be ended though. You can't just continue to keep going and going and going. Whoa, that was fun with the microphone. You have to have an endpoint in order to stop the care. So again, your assessment visit is typically to a regular medical doctor. You're going to note the subjective findings, record objective tests, the patient's condition and diagnosis, and formulate a plan with objective goals. And how do you do those objective goals? Oaths. So again, with your treatment visit, so all the subsequent visits in between, again, it's just the normal soap note. It's still a soap note. You're going to assess whether the patient is on course or not, and you might have to adjust your plan accordingly. A reviewer would need a block of records, just to let you know. So therefore, I know they might only request 1 day, but really, if you really want to, give a couple extra days to kind of show them the continuation of care. Okay? So your initial visits, you need to go ahead and go through your history description of your present illness, your physical evaluation, your diagnosis, your treatment plan, and then the date of initial treatment. Your subsequent visits, again, just follow your traditional SOAP note. History, physical exam, treatment, and your progress. So again, know what third parties want to see in your records. Know what things could trigger an audit in your records. We touched briefly on them, I know. Document initial visits, and then document subsequent visits perfectly. I know it's hard, but guess what? Perfect practice makes practice perfect. okay? So again, why you need to go ahead and know why the problem-oriented medical record. Why did the patient begin care? What did the provider find wrong? What did you do about it, and how did care end? So this is a recent denial from an extremity. Okay, I was recently just in Phoenix, and this is one of the doctors I had to help. They were adjusting chiropractically, adjusting extremities, and based on the documentation, which again, like I told you, he had no objective findings, but was adjusting an ankle. You have to have objective findings in a complaint. So again, that's subjective. The patient needs to have a subjective complaint of what's going on. I have ankle discomfort as well as low back pain. I have upper back pain. I have headaches every single night. You have to then objectively find objective findings that support what you're going to do, and you need to have a diagnosis, assessment, and then you have to have a plan of action of how you're going to take care of it. The reason why they were denied is due to the lack of continued ongoing objective gains. The care in question is not supported being as medically necessary. It happens a lot. So we as sports chiropractors, and I am going through the CCSP program here at Northwestern, is a concern because we deviate from all the status. So therefore, just keep in mind that we handle a lot more extremities than a lot of other chiropractors. So we're kind of out of those ranges. But the answer is, as long as you document it properly, you have a treatment plan, and they understand what's going on. Most commonly, the providers are going to pay for what's going on. So what is a treatment plan? Treatment plan pretty much is a plan ordered assembly, including observational goals, services, appointments, procedures, and usually organized in phases or sessions. And again, what does that mean? 12 to 15 visits or every 30 days, whatever comes first. So in your treatment plan, you need to have a list of the complaint with its relevant diagnosis, treatment and modality selected, duration and frequency of care, treatment goals, and objective measures to show progress. But again, the big thing, duration and frequency of care. Does everyone remember that 3 times a week for 3 weeks, 2 times a week for 2 weeks? Do you know where that came from? Dr. Parker was asked from Parker Chiropractic, well, how long should I treat a patient? And you know how he came up with it? As he was walking out of an auditorium, he just came up with it on the fly. So that really doesn't matter. You need to look at every patient as unique. Everyone needs a unique treatment plan. We're not cookie cutter. We're not cookie cutter doctors. Everyone is different, and you truly make a difference in your patient's life. So go ahead and take the time in order to go ahead and reflect that in their treatment plan as well. But again, the duration and frequency of care is so important, and everything is different. So therefore, if someone just has regular low back pain, it's not going to take very many visits, most commonly from just a minor strain. However, if they have a herniated disc or radiculopathy or anything else like that, it's going to take a lot longer, but you have to document it properly. And again, the big thing is activities of daily living. So now we're going to jump into another facet. We're going to talk about therapeutic procedures. And this is where I know everyone has a lot of questions and concerns in that regard. And that's why we're going to talk about it today. So, the codes, and these are the therapeutic codes. So they range everything from therapeutic modalities to ultrasound to electric stim to rehab to massage. And we're going to touch on each and every individual one of them. I'm going to show you guys kind of what you need to have in your notes for each code and then how you guys need to document that. Does that sound like a plan? Woohoo! It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Thank you again for being here. So again, a therapeutic procedure is defined as a manner of affecting change through the application of clinical skills and or services that attempt to include, again, that favorite word of mine, function. And again, it's all about the function, the function, the function. Sorry, that's from Mario Fuccineri. If anyone has the opportunity to see Dr. Mario, he's fantastic as well. The common component includes, as part of therapeutic procedures, include chart reviews for treatment, setup of activities, and the equipment area, and review of previous documentation as needed. Common components included as part of the therapeutic procedures include chart review for treatment, setup activities, equipment area, and review of documentation as needed. I just said that. That's really fun. So again, let's talk about the differences between attended and non-attended. I know this is kind of questionable, and there's a little bit of gray area in that. So unattended services do not require the supervision and are not time-based. They are billed as 1 unit per treatment session. documentation should still indicate duration and time and the service that was unattended. But however, if you jump into attended services require constant supervision. It's one-on-one, okay? It's one-on-one contact. Now, it could be you or your staff, depending on your state, so please check your state regulations. And it's billed in 15-minute increments. And we're going to go into lots of detail on that. Service-based codes or unlimited codes denote services such as conducting a hot or cold pack, providing electrical stimulation unattended, or high volt unattended. Services like these, you can't bill more than one unit, regardless of the amount of time you deliver the treatment. So per the coding guidelines, so if you put someone on unattended electric stim or high volt, and you do it for half an hour, well guess what? It's still only one unit, okay? But however, if you use time-based procedures and services, such as therapeutic exercise activities, manual therapy, gait training, ultrasound, or electrical stimulation attended, you're allowed to bill multiple units in 15-minute increments. 1 unit equals 15 units of direct therapy. Time spent in a waiting room or awaiting treatment is not included, and the requirement not to bill for services lasting, you can't bill for services lasting less than 8 minutes. So again, the magic number is 8+. So in our offices, most of the time we actually set the machine for about 10 to 12 minutes, because by the time you get the patient back, you get them kind of set up, it's about that 15-minute rule. And we'll talk about what you need to document in it, because we include start times and end times in our documentation. According to the wonderful American Chiropractic Association, constant attendance modalities, which are for code 97032 through 97039, and again, we'll get you a whole list of all the codes, don't worry about it, we will have a handout in that regard, and notes. The codes require direct one-on-one contact through the procedure, which the provider is required to maintain visual, verbal, and manual contact with the patient. Dr. Evan William was actually on a case for NICMIC, where the doctor was having, had one giant room and open bays, and he was doing therapy on patients and billing it as constant attendance, but he really wasn't having one-on-one contact, okay? Again, you should be able to have a normal conversation and not shout across the room in order to see, how are you doing over there, Mrs. Smith? That's really not one-on-one direct contact, okay? You really need to be nice and close with them and maintain, again, the rule is visual, verbal, and manual contact. And note, it does not include your iPhone, that you're like, just put cameras up and you're like, yep, you're doing great, I'm sitting and having a martini down on the beach, okay? It doesn't work that way. So for an example, if manual electric stimulation is applied to 4 areas, a total of 30 minutes, and you use code 97032, is reported for 2 units, once for each 15-minute interval. That is totally acceptable, because again, it is you're there. It's a one-on-one direct contact. However, if you do a 97014, which is electrical stimulation unattended, and you do it for 30 minutes, guess how many units you can bill? Anyone? Yes, the crowd says 1, absolutely. So again, if we look really quick at the 1500 claim form, the spot that it goes is right over here, which is 24G as in goat. I have no clue where goat came from, but that's really fun to say. So again, it goes in 24G. Oh, I forgot that was right behind me. This is fun too. So, and again, that's how many units are going on. And many doctors, when we audit them, they might be doing 2 or 3 units. However, their staff is never putting on the 1500 claim form. So please, doctors out there in real practice world, please make sure that you're actually billing for what you do. And please, when you look at your 1500 claim forms or if you use electronic claims, please check the number of units that you're utilizing as well. Another big, I just threw this in here because another big, little bit off topic, but one other thing that a lot of people get denied on is not actually checking if this is an auto accident or if it's workers' comp. So please make sure, and that's under 10A through C. So, modalities require constant attendance. Sorry, I jumped off topic, but I thought I wanted to throw another tidbit in there for you guys because of what we see for denials. So, modalities which require constant attendance indicate in the notes the actual time spent with the patient performing services and procedures. If you spend any time out of the room or away from the patient, that time, guess what? It doesn't count. So if you have to utilize the restroom or give another patient a high five or you see another patient in between, that's not constant direct one-on-one contact. So for example, patient received treatment for 30 minutes, but we only can go 15 minutes at a time, and I'm going to show you why. 5 minutes was with the patient starting therapy. The doctor steps away for 10 minutes. The doctor comes back 5 minutes and checks on the patient. Doctor leaves for another 5 minutes. 5 minutes when the doctor returns to discontinue treatment. So a lot of doctors, again, one doctor that I was auditing billed for 30 minutes because that's how long the patient really had. But you have to ask yourself, again, is this one of the codes that allows you for one-on-one contact, or is this unattended? If it's unattended, you only can bill 15 minutes anyways. However, this doctor decided to bill for that he was one-on-one contact, and he said, I was there. I had one-on-one contact, but it wasn't continuous. So when we did the audit, it had to be reduced down to 15 minutes. Does that make sense? Yeah, awesome. Unsupervised modalities should indicate a progressive note that the service provider was unsupervised. For example, if the patient has previously been instructed on floor exercises, the therapist may ask the patient to start with an exercise they have demonstrated the ability to perform while the therapist checks in, while the doctor is going and assisting with another patient. But that is unsupervised time and is not billable. So again, if you start your patient off and say, yep, okay, Mrs. Smith, go ahead and hop on the bike, I'll be right back, go ahead and just start really slowly, that's not considered part of the billable time, okay? Therapeutic exercise. Therapeutic exercise is, again, performed and they should reflect what's kind of going on. So again, the time spent performing the exercise and documented in a number of ways. The total time spent, start and stop times, and the total time for each exercise to arrive at your total time. We'll get this in more detail, I promise, in just a couple slides. So, these are the most common used codes by chiropractors for therapeutic modalities. Woo! I'm sorry, my voice almost came out. I promise I'm not going through puberty. So therefore, if we go ahead and look, 97104 is manual therapy techniques. 97110 is therapeutic exercise. 97124 massage. Neuromuscular education. Therapeutic activities, direct patient contact. Therapeutic procedures in a group, and we'll talk about that because lots of doctors should be using that code when they're doing more than one person, and they don't properly. And then we'll talk about unlisted therapeutic procedures. The references that we use for today, this portion of the presentation is from the American Medical Association, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, and the wonderful findacode.com. So again, therapeutic procedures is a manner of effecting change through the application of clinical skills and services in an attempt to improve function. Okay? Again, procedures that attempt to reduce impairments and restore function through the application of clinical skills and or services. Direct one-on-one supervision is required. Supervision of a previously taught exercise is not covered. Exercise using equipment that does not require the intervention or skill of the therapist is not covered. So again, if you go ahead and you have one of those fancy Bowflexes or something like that in your office, and they just get to go and they do it themselves, that doesn't count as therapeutic exercise. Okay? And we'll go into more detail here in just a couple minutes. Most time codes, therefore, therefore most codes are based on time. So when it comes to rehabilitation, it's all about time. It doesn't matter how many areas you treat, it's again, all about time. So it's in portions of 15 minutes must be spent, therefore services less than 8 minutes, you can't really report. Okay, so if something is less than 8 minutes, so let's say, perfect example, we had a patient last week that got a phone call and had to leave. We were in the middle of doing some exercises and some stretches, but it was only 6 minutes. Guess what? No billable. We had to not even put it on the claim form. We had to document what we did, and had to document that the patient had to leave, but it's not a billable service. There's no separate coverage for educational components of treatment of time spent on your documentation, and most major insurance carriers are often now requiring the GP modifier. So please check with your state association about that. And the GP modifier is indicated that services are under an outpatient physical therapy plan of care. And it's just something to think about. It's going to be coming up, and so therefore you heard it first here. So again, utilizing the therapeutic exercise and other modalities, they may start requiring the GP modifier. But again, your state association is fantastic, just like Wisconsin, and we can go ahead and go from there. Yes, sir?
Can you go back one slide moment?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not appropriate to use 52 mod on.
Yes, it's not appropriate to use the 52 modifier, which says that it's additional time. So it's saying that it's to do additional time in order to perform on 97110 through 97514, and we'll get into that detail, okay? I promise. There's a lot more detail. I'm trying to give you guys the building blocks, because there's so much information when it comes to coding, and I only have an hour, so I'm just trying to give you guys some building blocks. We're going to get into the individual codes here in just a minute, okay? So on a side note, I'm a coder and I'm a geek, so therefore don't use unspecified codes, please. The only times it's appropriate is like an ankle sprain, because you really don't know what exact ligament or is actually sprained, so using an unspecified ligament or unspecified code is fine there. But please don't list like, yes, patient has sciatica, unspecified. I see it a lot because doctors don't list left and right. Well, you need to know left and right. Is it the left or right shoulder? Please take the extra second and put the right code, but make sure you actually put that in your documentation, because a lot of times when I review documentation, yes, they build the right shoulder, but guess what? They didn't attack anything about the right shoulder. So guess what? It has to be reduced to an unspecified code, which means it's denied. So, we're going to talk about the tubercular list, so therefore there are blocks. So has everyone taken an ICD-10 class? Yes, no? Oh my goodness, take one! It's fun, I'll teach you, it'll be fun. We do have them on the webinar too. So ICD-10 is how we document and how we code. And yes, there are dorks like me all around the nation that love and strive to code things. Just to let you know, you can code pretty much everything. And yes, Evan William, if you ask Evan, like, Evan, I decided to trip, fall, and have a snowball fight, and it got attacked by a turkey. Evan can code it without a code book, which is scary. I'm not that big of a dork yet. So there's different sections of within the list of Chapter 13, which is in the big book of what we call the Bible of Codes. And most commonly, we're going to be using codes for sports chiropractic in the M45 to M49, the M99 section, as well as M46, so on and so forth, and some of the S codes. And again, if you're a big dork like me, go ahead and look them up. Even Google some of these sections and read through them so you kind of know what's in those sections in order for you to code. We're also going to be talking about RVUs, and it's a measure of value in the U.S. for reimbursement. So when I talk about each one of these individual codes, we're also going to be talking about their RVUs, and it's how you set your set standards in that regard, and we'll go into some of that detail. So let's just jump right into some of the codes, okay? I know we had a lot of stuff to kind of go through, but we're going to get through as many of these as we possibly can. So 97140 is manual therapy techniques. Okay, it's manual traction for cervical radiculopathy, joint mobilization for restricted joint motion, myofascial release for restricted motions of soft tissue, manipulation for spasm or restricted motion of soft tissue, and lymph drainage, okay? Manual therapy techniques should include, but are not limited to, many things. Soft tissue mobilization, manual lymph drainage, manual traction, myofascial release, neuroglide techniques. Manual therapy requires the provider to use their hands, okay? Or a tool that can be associated with, such as Graston or something like that, okay? A number of regions treated, it doesn't matter. Again, according to the research, 12 to 18 visits max during 4 to 6 weeks, okay? 97140 is not interchangeable with an adjustment, and we'll talk about this, okay? So, modifiers, let's talk about this in a little more detail. So the 97124, which is massage, is not covered in the same visit date unless it's a different body area. So, we'll talk about this. So if you're adjusting like a lower back, you can't do it in the same region, you have to do it in a different region in order to build this code. Does that make sense, everyone? I have more examples on this in a second. So, also, 97530, which is therapeutic exercise, you can't really bill it with 97140 because it's excluded. Because again, if you do bill the therapeutic activities, you're going to have the -59 modifier on it in order to bill for it. 97140 should have a 59 modifier if attached with such an adjustment, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. So, many insurance companies have nationwide policies that for chiropractic reimbursement that pretty much say that if you do manual therapy and you adjust, they're not going to pay you, okay? This is going to be denied. However, there are two options to overcome this. And again, two fun options. Perform the manual therapy service on a different date of service than the adjustment, if your state scope of practice permits it, or submit the services together, anticipate the denial, and submit an appeal of your treatment with your records. That's pretty much what it's going to be coming down to. And guess what? Chiropractic already has a letter they already put together, and all you have to do is fill in the blanks, and I'll show you guys that at the end of today's presentation. So therefore, again, those are your two options, and they're not great options, but guess what? It's something. So if in our office, we automatically submit the denial letter with the 1500 claim form, and magically they pay. So, indications. To perform manual therapy, you want limited range of motion, such as adhesive capsulitis, stiffness of the shoulder or tissue adherence, muscle spasms, contracted tissue, soft tissue swelling, pain, or inflammation. I'm sorry, these are in ICD-9 format. I will update this slide shortly. I know those have codes from the bottom of my heart, so therefore that's why they got in. So again, but in your notes, if you're going to be doing manual therapy techniques, in your notes, in your subjective, they need to have these. If they don't have these, you shouldn't be doing this on them. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay. So in your documentation, as part of your care plan, you need to have restricted joint or soft tissue motion, including comparison to the unaffected limb if possible. Areas treated and technique used, functional limitations and deficits again. What can they do? They have a hard time wiping themselves. They have a hard time putting their pants on. Okay? Ask for details. There are wonderful lists out there for different activities of daily living. Go ahead and make sure you put in your frequency, duration, and your desired goals. What are your goals associated with this as well? At each encounter, objective and subjective measures should be used as well. Activities performed and the amount of assistance required. Any variation for the plan. Because when a patient comes in, are they cookie cutter? Do they really follow what's kind of going on? Or do they kind of take a flow? You kind of have to go through. And you have to kind of figure out what exactly is going on in that regard and be progressive and be able to change and go with the flow. So don't be afraid to change your plan accordingly. Every assessment shows functional progress and alternative treatment strategies. The National Coding Initiative, which is NCII, bundles them together with chiropractic adjustments. So therefore, if the procedure is performed separate regions, you may report them separately by using that -59 modifier. If the claim is properly filed in support of the documentation, the insurer should pay for both procedures. But again, we just talked about it, that sometimes they don't, and so therefore you have to use an appeal. But don't worry, like I told you, we have a letter you can use and it works out perfectly. So here's an example. The chiropractor performs an adjustment, 1 to 2 regions on the cervical region, then performs manual therapy to the same cervical region. The patient's diagnosis reflects neck pain, which is a really, really bad diagnosis. Please use some other diagnosis than just cervicalgia. Cervical subluxation, somatic and segmental dysfunction, and muscle spasms. Manual therapy would not be reimbursed in this scenario because why, ladies and gentlemen? Same area. Makes sense? Let's go to the next one. The chiropractor performs an adjustment, 3 to 4 regions, on the cervical, lumbar, and there should be sacrum written in there too, because that's only 2 regions. He or she performs the therapy on the patient's shoulder. So we adjusted the neck, the upper back, lower back, but then now we're doing the manual therapy on the shoulder because they also had their shoulder issue kind of going on, okay? The patient's diagnosis codes are cervical subluxation, lumbar, degeneration disease, adhesive capsulitis, and muscle spasms. And again, in this scenario, since we're not treating on the same area, it's going to be it's going to be payable. Now, some offices will adjust, like if they're having a lower back and they want to do some myofascial work or something on the lumbar spine, they'll adjust one day and the patient will come back for the manual therapy the next day. Okay? There's lots of different ways you can do it, and if you have questions that we're going to be happy to try to help out any way I can. Okay? So again, to best support payment and minimize red flag audits, the provider's note did include indications for treatment goals associated with manual therapy, objective measures, which regions were treated, and a treatment plan including frequency and duration. And again, frequency and duration doesn't happen very often. So, again, example. So we're going to move to the next one, which is 97110, which is Therapeutic Procedures. 1 or more areas in 15-minute exercise to develop, strengthen endurance, range of motion, and flexibility. This is the fun stuff, guys. This is the fun stuff you can do at your office. Example includes treadmill, endurance, isokinetic exercises, ranges of motion, lumbar stabilization exercises for flexibility, and gymnastic ball for stretches and strengthening. Use 97112 to rehabilitation, movement, coordination, or balance. Again, we'll get to that. 97112 for rehabilitation of movement, coordination, and balance. But 97110, again, is for endurance, range of motion, and flexibility. According to the research, it's 12 to 18 visits, 4 to 6 weeks, and you want to transition them to a home exercise program. It's all about the home exercise program. If you don't have that as an auditor, I'm going to pretty much not be very happy reading your notes, okay? If passive, then if it's just passive, therapeutic procedures, then only 2 to 4 visits, okay? 97110 should always have a 59 modifier if billed with anything else. Indications for why you would want to use this is loss or restriction of joint motion, strength, flexibility, functional capacity, or mobility from a specific disease or injury. It's not covered for exercises to promote overall fitness, flexibility, endurance, aerobic conditioning, or weight reduction. It's not covered for maintenance of range of motion or strength unless a skilled therapist is needed. So again, it's only billable if you're doing it with them guys. So as part of your documentation, as part of your care plan, objective loss of joint motion, such as degrees with comparison to unaffected limbs, strength using grades, and mobility, which is levels of assistance. Specific exercises and their purpose. Why a skilled therapist is needed. So why do you have to be there? Because you're helping them. You're helping them with their activities of daily living. Functional limitations and deficits and effects on the function. But again, please include frequency and duration as well. At each encounter, also please have objective measures of strength, range of motion, and mobility, the exercises performed, and any variation from the plan in response to the patient. At reassessments, you need to show functional progress and alternative treatment strategies if necessary. From a CPT coding perspective, 97110 requires the practitioner to maintain direct patient contact. And we've talked about this before, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, you don't understand. A lot of people will build this code and we're in the other room. You have to, again, have direct contact with them. And if I can't stress anything more, please have that one-on-one direct contact with that patient. So for massage, okay, a lot of people have massage therapists in the office as well. But again, massage is a very, very, very important component to getting our patients better. And it can be billed, but most of the commonly with many insurance programs, it's not a covered service. So you might be asking yourself, and this is a great time to talk about integrative care. So therefore, if you have your massage therapist, your acupuncturist, your chiropractor, how do you bill for that? Well, the chiropractor can go ahead and do their evaluation and make recommendation for massage or acupuncture. Depending on your insurance contract, most insurance companies don't pay for acupuncture or for massage therapy. So it is a cash purpose from many perspectives is what we found across the state. So therefore, the doctor would do their evaluation and make recommendation for acupuncture or massage. They would go ahead and they would refer to it, but the chiropractor or whoever does the initial evaluation needs to have why. Why do they need this? How would this help the patient in their recommendation and their documentation to be able to better support that? So let's jump back into massage. So it must be performed by hand and not with a device. So you just can't put them in a massage chair, because I just did an audit where they just had one of those really fancy massage chairs, and let me tell you, it really didn't do it, and they were billing it as massage. It doesn't count, okay? It's not covered as ISO treatment for more than 30 minutes, okay? If they do a massage for more than 30 minutes, even on an auto accident case, most commonly it's going to be denied as not medically necessary because the massage needs to reflect the primary complaint area, and the doctor who referred for that massage needs to clearly reflect that in their documentation as well. It's a maximum normally, maximum of 6 to 8 visits. And again, maximum of 1 to 2 units is considered medically necessary. Anything over that, anything over 30 minutes, most likely they're not going to pay. And if you look on auto cases, you might say, oh, I always bill for an hour. Well, I'm just going to let you know that according to insurance companies, they're not going to have to pay that. And they're going to say only 30 minutes is medically necessary. They should have the modifier -59 attached to the bill. And again, in most states, and in the state of Minnesota, when I did some research, if you refer to a massage therapist or if you have a massage therapist on staff, You can go ahead for auto accidents or workers' comp, refer to massage, absolutely, and they do pay for it. But again, it needs to be clearly referred into documentation. Why do they need massage? What is massage going to do for them in order to get better? And again, only bill 1 to 2 units. You can't bill 4 to 5 units or give them a 90-minute massage because guess what? It's not going to be medically necessary at all. So again, indications for massage is to restore muscle function, relieve muscle spasms, improve joint motion, mobilize stiffness or scar tissue, reduce edema and increase blood flow. So guess what? If you as a doctor have this in your notes, have these indications in your notes, of course they're going to say it's recommended, okay? Because that's also the goals you're going to have is that as well. So you're going to document it as part of your care plan, area being treated, the technique used, rationale, frequency and duration, and in each counter, the area treated and the technique used. So the massage therapist, whoever is doing it, needs to go ahead and make sure their documentation is to par as well. So we're jumping into 97112, which is neuromuscular re-education, movement, balance, and coordination for posture and or appropriate session for sitting and standing activities. There's lots of different examples of this as well. But again, keep in mind that it's different than using the 97110 for strength, range of motion, and flexibility. Again, if you're using neuromuscular re-education for movement, balance, and coordination, it's, again, 12 to 18 visits within 4 to 6 weeks. And again, it should have the 59 modifier if billed with an adjustment. Indications for doing this kind of therapy is loss of DTRs and vibration sense compared to paresthesia, burning, or diffuse pain in the feet, lower legs, and or fingers. Nerve injuries or diseases leading to muscle weakness or flaccidity. Inability to sit, stand unassisted, or loss of gross or fine motor coordination, or if they're hypo or hypertonicity. As part of your care plan, again, you want objective measures rating loss of motion in degrees, strength, balance, and coordination. And also documentation to support the skills of the therapy are needed, and frequency and duration. Again, it's the key. You keep hearing me say frequency and duration. Frequency and duration. It's very, very, very important. Therapeutic exercise directed at more than one patient. Okay, so a lot of times, a lot of doctors out there with all the notes are actually doing rehab on more than one patient. Okay, and they're billing for one-on-one direct contact, but really they should be utilizing it. This is therapeutic to directed at one patient. I apologize. I'm skipping to the other one. This one, 97150, which is therapeutic procedures for 2 or more individuals. So again, it's group therapy procedures involve constant attendance of the care physician, but you can have more than one person kind of going on. And someone said, well, how many can I have? Well, again, 2 to 3. Please don't have 10. We just did an audit where a doctor literally had 10 people they were trying to do therapy on at one time. It's not possible, okay? They couldn't have enough contact with that person. So again, they recommend 3 to 4 people max, okay? Patients may not be doing the same activities, so keep that in mind. 97150 is not time-based, therefore it's reported per session, regardless of the time involved. It's reported for each individual receiving the group therapy, and it does need the 59 modifier when billed with all other things, such as an adjustment. Group therapy is typically only billed once per patient per day. Groups, again, should not exceed 4. And again, so don't do 10 like some of the other doctors out there. Supervising patients who are exercising independently on exercise equipment doesn't need your help, so guess what? It's not a billable service. So therefore, again, there's examples here, I will include that in some of the handouts, but from a coding perspective, 97110 requires the practitioner to maintain direct patient contact, again, verbally with the patient, and as a doctor working with several patients at the same time, then you should utilize that, again, that group code. So I'm going to jump through some of the stuff with the modalities, electric stim and stuff, because we're running out of time. But I really want to say this really quick. If you use hot packs or cold packs, please be very, very careful because they are utilizing hydrocolloid packs are one of the most common reasons why someone gets sued for malpractice, because it burns. Sorry, I'm just skipping through a lot of stuff. Talked a little bit too much. So, always use the diagnosis that most accurately describes the patient. And for those of you who want more information, if you email me, I'll get you the slides. I can set up another webinar to go over this stuff. It'll be fun. I know this was recorded as well. Always use the diagnosis that most accurately describes the patient. The diagnosis pointer should clearly link to the distinct procedure rather than to all of them. To help establish medical necessity for each procedure, the plan or care plan should outline specific and measurable goals for each service. So for an example, a 9940 chiropractic manipulation, 2 to 3, 4, 1 to 2 regions, show favorable changes in the part exam, such as reduced pain and increased range of motion by certain amounts by a certain date. Again, put a certain date on it. Set, you know what I mean, in 2 weeks. Don't just say, just don't leave it blank, okay? Therapeutic therapy techniques reduce quantity, frequency, location, severity of trigger points by a certain amount by a certain date. Therapeutic procedures, 1 more areas, 15 minutes each. You're going to build a 971 And again, in your notes, you're going to show improved muscle strength from a 3 to a 4 by a certain date, or restore gait to a normal by a certain date. Functional progress should be demonstrated in each re-exam by achieving the goals or remarking about the lack of progress if it's possible. Also remember that 97140 and 97112 are time-based codes, and this encounter would need to be documented a minimum of 23 minutes if you do both of them in order for them to be billed at the same visit. So remember I talked about the denial letter as well? If you guys go to chirocode.com, or if you just Google response to 97110-97124 for denial, and it will automatically link you to the Chirocode website. And I think I can do that right now. Maybe. I love technology. There we go. And of course, it's not going to let me do it. But just trust me, if you guys go ahead, this is a letter that pretty much some of the staff at Chirocode put together. And it's absolutely fantastic. Pretty much it outlines in great detail kind of who it's going to, the claim number, the patient name, why it was being denied with the codes. It quotes exactly from the American Medical Association and everything, kind of why it should be covered. Go ahead and put your name on it and include it with it. And most commonly, they pay because it's following the procedures, because you're following the procedures, and if your documentation reflects accordingly, you should be good to go. If you're also looking for other coding resources, these are wonderful, a lot of great websites and coding manuals as well. Again, I do want to thank you. I know we rushed through a whole bunch of stuff, but I want to make sure that everyone is able to get to see their patients on time, and so on and so forth. So again, thank you guys very, very much. I greatly appreciate it. For more information, please contact, again, you can email me, Dr. Chris at AndersonClinics.com. We will be having handouts for you guys as well. So thank you guys very much. Have a great day, and don't forget about homecoming coming up in February. Thanks, guys.
Any questions for?
Yeah.
All right, so first on like the ICD-10 coding, is there any specific order that you would say?
I love that you answered that. Yes, absolutely. So therefore, I'm sorry.
Just repeat the question.
Still, for all those in a fancy Facebook world, and for recording the question was pretty much, what is the order that you should actually put in your diagnosis? And there is a structure. So you want neurological codes first, followed by functional. Actually, I have a slide. Give me 1 second. It's going to be easier to show you a slide. That was a great question. I'm so glad you asked it. I promise I did not ask ahead of time for you to do it. But it's going to be easier if you guys see it, and then you guys can take pictures of it. I talk a lot. I'm sorry, I really need theme music as I do this really quick.
While Dr. Anderson's doing that, if you haven't signed in, please sign in. I think we got almost everybody. The orange forms are for the doctors that need CEUs. So there's 2 forms, right? There's one that you sign in on, and then there's the larger form that asks you a million questions about your life that we need to turn into our continuing education office as well. So if you want that free CEU, which we're excited to be able to offer you now for these through Northwestern. Please fill out that documentation.
I'm sorry guys, it'll be just a second. Trying to find the big ICD-10 PowerPoint. But again, it's neurological codes followed by functional. And again, this chart, I just need to find it. I apologize. Is there any other questions why I continue to look for this? Yeah.
I saw when you were going over therapeutic exercise, there was a little subnote that said something about if they had been previously trained on the exercise that it was no longer billable. But
It pretty much what that's saying is that if they are, so for therapeutic exercise, if you are doing something and they've been trained on it and they're already doing it at home, and it's part of their home rehabilitation, you can't do it in the clinic itself anymore and still bill for it. So if it's part of their at home, you know what I mean, you can say, demonstrate it for me. Demonstrate how we do this. But again, you can't go ahead and bill for something. Oh, I don't know what I just did. That's fine. Bill for it if it's already being done at their at-home procedures. So I'll be quite honest, I can't find that slide, but again, neurological comes first, followed by functional, then structural, then any soft tissue. So again, and there's a chart that we came up with for ChiroCode, and I'd be more than happy, just email me, I'd be more than happy to give it to you, but again, it's anything neurological, it is way first. So therefore, and you want to make sure that it's in your first diagnosis. So on the claim form, you want to make sure that it's in that spot A. So always think worst first. Okay, what is the worst thing going on? Because most of the time with the computers that are reading the claims electronically, they're only looking at that first pointer and they're making all their treatment goals, all of their frequency of care and how many visits they're going to approve you for is all going to be based on that first code. So if you list cervicalgia as your primary complaint, guess what? You're not going to get many visits compared to a sciatic low back pain with sciatica on the right side. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I mean, as a sports chiro, if you're seeing more like shoulder or hip or knee dysfunction or a sprain strain,
That's higher than just the pain.
Right.
And a lot of chiropractors don't code properly. A lot of chiropractors just list the pain. So they would just list the pain in the knee or stiffness of the knee and not actually listing a sprain or a strain of the knee as their primary diagnosis. Does that make sense?
yeah, so if you don't have a neurologic, you can go to your sprain strain.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the next question is, when you go from that, you still need the M99 codes if you've already listed a sprain strain in that same area.
I would always say this, if you have the room, the more codes you put on that claim form, is the more information the insurance companies get. So therefore, go ahead and throw it on. In our offices, we list it at the end. All of our subluxation codes go at the end, except for Medicare. And again, depending on who your Medicare, sometimes with Medicare, you have to play the game and put the subluxation first. So, great question, though. Absolutely great question. Any others? Yes.
Yes. You had mentioned integrative care a little bit. I think it's really early in healthcare. We're on the cutting edge, really, of more offices offering integrative care and true integrative care, where the different providers actually talk to each other as that patient's all there in that same visit, not subsequent visits on subsequent days. Where do you think, I don't think there's probably a code right now for proper integrative care and being able to detail it out. Where do you think we are down the road for being able to bill out and be reimbursed for appropriate care like that?
Based on CPT codes and based on what I've been told, probably it's going to be a while.
Because the evidence is there.
The evidence does support it. However, it's getting through to the proper, like American Medical Association and so on and so forth. Because the American Medical Association, the way they have it structured here in the U.S., is very much independently. So therefore, so integrated care is definitely part of the future, and that's why I said that if you can go ahead and being billable to insurance companies is going to be hard, just based on some of the integrated care. Now, let's say you have an MD in the office. I do have lots of offices, one in particular out in Salt Lake area, in Ogden, that I work with, and they have a medical doctor actually in their clinic. And what happens is the medical doctor does the evaluation, and then what they do is they refer to chiropractic or refer for massage therapy in that regard, and then the reevaluations are done by the medical doctor again for continuation of care. So that's one integrative model that's out there that I know is being used, and that is totally billable through insurance. Because again, the medical doctor is making sure in their documentation, these are the musculoskeletal findings that are medically necessary, and then referring for chiropractic or massage therapy, and it is being paid in that regard. However, when it comes to acupuncture, it's not being reimbursed in most situations in that regard, unfortunately. So, but thank you, Dr. Stark, for that. Appreciate that. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I went through a lot of information. I had to go through a lot of stuff fast, so therefore the other information that we had to go through that I had to skip, unfortunately, talked about ultrasound, electric stim, some of the other modalities. So there will be a handout. We are making it very easy for you. The handout that I had originally, I was told by my staff is way too complicated, so I need to ease it down. So therefore it will be available. Just go ahead and email me and I'll give it to you. Yeah, Doc.
How about one more about strapping? Whether it's neuromuscular, could you code it that way, or can you only use strapping, which isn't covered by most insurance?
I'm gonna just be honest with you. It's most commonly gonna not be covered. You're just gonna have to go as the strapping code according to the coding guidelines, and it's gonna be a non-covered service. Most commonly, I know a lot of docs, when they're strapping, they go ahead and they just tell the patient it's gonna be this much for the tape. They go ahead and they pay for the tape, and they just, you know what I mean, it's hard to go in that regard.
Well, I know Medica and United Healthcare are the only ones that cover Minnesota's. But
For now,
but I also know like auto and work comp usually cover it.
I'm just going to let you know that soon it is under review, and I know that the AAPC, which is American Academy of Professional Coders, actually is on the agenda to discuss it, to have a ruling on it. So I'll be honest, just wait and see. And if you want to contact me, probably, I know that the meeting's coming up in a couple weeks. I'm not going to be there, but I know it's on the agenda to discuss, and they'll make a ruling on it, and kind of whatever the American Academy of Professional Coders does is kind of what follows through. So please email me in a couple weeks, because I will be watching it. Also, if you go to findacode.com, join our newsletter. Normally, Evan, Mario, Brandy, myself, we all put stuff like that on that information as well, and be directly emailed to you. So, great question. Thank you very much for being here. Any other questions? Guys, again, truly my honor. I know that at 7 o'clock in the morning, coding is not really what you want to hear. How to use those codes, how to document properly. But again, if I can stress anything to you guys, please document appropriately. Please document and read correctly. Take the time to document, because again, it is that shield that will protect you from auditors like me who read your notes, okay? So thank you guys very much. Thank you very much for attending everyone out in Facebook land as well. Appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Dr. Banks.